Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Jar of Fools Part 1 and Part 2. Basically, this comprises one graphic novel. They just released it as 2 editions. This is the work of cartoonist Jason Lutes, and this came out in 1994 and 1995. This is pretty much the first thing Jason Lutes ever did, other than some short stories and stuff. This strip appeared in the Seattle Stranger, which is an alternative newspaper. I don't even know if it's still running. A lot of great cartoonists work for it. I think Jason Lutes was like the art director there, so he had an in. But that's how, at least I think the majority of this first appeared as a continuity strip. So let's take a look at these. These were published by Black Eye Productions, which was one of the really great little publishers in the 90s. And they didn't last very long. But everything they did was just really well designed. They had a great stable of cartoonists working for them. I really miss Black Eye. I think it was the brainchild, or at least the design by Michael Vrania, who went on to work at other companies. So it's a softcover book, yet it has a dust jacket, which is a complete fold-out. It's pretty nice, this huge panoramic cover by Jason Lutes. Okay, I'll get rid of this. And here's the actual little book. And I'm not a big fan of this design. Kind of boring. We see a locked heart as this icon. Kind of makes sense. Title page. Indicia. And we start with Jar of Fools Part 1. So, as you can see, Jason Lutes, this is like his earliest work. I gotta say, not a huge fan. I mean, I like a lot of stuff he does, especially backgrounds, but some of his faces look a little goofy to me. And, I don't know. It's not quite there. Later on, he went on to do his epic graphic novel, Berlin. And the art's a lot better in there. At least, drawing faces and stuff. Other than that, he's a pretty damn good artist. So we start off with a little dream sequence here. We see these 2 characters dancing. And in this book, you can tell all the dream sequences, the panels are, they don't have sharp corners. The woman dancer starts melting in this person's hand, and the dreamer wakes up, and it's our protagonist, Ernie. Obviously, Ernie's seen better days. He's waking up on a park bench hungover. I guess the background of this is he's a magician. He was doing a children's party. The parents smelled the booze on him and said, "You got to leave." And he woke up 3 days later on this park bench. He has this kind of funny little talk with this street person. He asks Ernie for some spare change. And Ernie says, "Can you spare any change?" And he looks over at Ernie and realizes he probably needs it. So he gives him a quarter. Ernie does a little magic trick with it, turns the quarter into $1, gives it to the guy, and takes off. The storytelling in this comic is pretty static, because this was, a weekly strip. So that there's not going to be any funky, crazy page layouts and designs, because this all had to fit, in a normal strip format. So he meets this guy, Nathan Lavender, and they kind of have this weird conversation about, he asks Ernie if he's heartbroken, and goes on to say something like, heartbroken people, you can't communicate with them. I hope you're not one of those guys. Very strange. We actually see, Nathan actually recognizes him, but he can't quite place where we see a flyer for the amazing Ernesto. So I guess Ernie at one point did have a decent little thing going, but now he obviously doesn't. He's destitute. He realizes he lost his house keys for his apartment, so he has to be buzzed in by a neighbor, Marie, and she's totally giving him shit. She's like, I thought you were supposed to be a magician. Why can't you get through the door? He's like, I've never been good with locks, you know that. And she finally buzzes him in. I kind of like, that seems pretty funny. And when he gets upstairs, he has a little chat with Marie. He calls up Albert Flosso. We don't know who Albert is yet, but he lives in a retirement home. And once again, Albert has escaped. Apparently, he does this all the time. Marie asks how come he keeps escaping. He says he was one of the greatest escape artists of his day. Of course, he can bust out of a retirement home. She's like, why does he always end up back there? And he says, well, he forgets. So Albert has got Alzheimer's or some kind of memory loss. Ernie goes into his apartment, has a drink, and starts watching a TV show. And if you know Jason Lutes' style, he quickly falls asleep because the panels have the curved corners again. So the TV show turns into some weird dream. It kind of mixes right into his dream. He turns into this woman, or Ernie does, I should say. And we find out later, we don't know who this guy is in the back seat, but this is his brother who recently died performing an escape stunt. And they stop at this bridge. The brother has a straitjacket on, and Dream Ernie assists him by attaching a giant metal ball and a chain to his legs. Of course, they have this kind of cryptic, dreamlike conversation, and then the brother jumps off. He wakes up screaming. You can tell that he's had this dream many times before. So his brother's death is going to loom over this whole story, where he's obviously suffering some trauma from this. So Al calls Ernie back. He's down at the local diner. He says, bring my hat. And it's this big magician's top hat. See, this is what I'm talking about. Jason Lutes is so just precise. Whenever he draws like street scenes, backgrounds, electrical wires, he's even when he was young, he's just very good at that. Just like little panels like that. Very simple, but he's very precise. I do love the way he draws Al. For some reason, maybe he's just better at drawing old men, but Al always looks great. Sometimes Ernie's face is a little weird looking and just like, I don't know. So they're talking about Al's memory loss, but he's also, he's still got some smarts about him. He's pissed off that people whisper around him as if he's a child. He's like, I still got an adult brain. Al's quite a character. He's a little curmudgeon. So he invites Al to come stay with him at his apartment. And Al starts telling him about some of the old magicians back in the day. Ziska and King, the burlesque magicians, this couple. And the one that he was closest to, though, was Ed Estris. So when he gets to his apartment, he doesn't have to be buzzed in because Al is very good at locks. He's good at everything magic. So he just picks the lock to the apartment door, well, to the outside door. And then he says, hey, Al, by the way, could you open my mailbox? I haven't been able to open it in weeks. And inside is a letter. Who knows how old it is? It's been there for a while. And it's from his ex-girlfriend. So we also find out on top of his brother dying, it seems like Ernie had this devastating breakup with this woman that he cannot move on from. Her name's Esther. And the combination of the two, that's why he's just a drunk without a job. So he sets up Al in his place, and he reads the letter. He hasn't heard from her in months, ever since they broke up. There's a cassette, a blank cassette in the letter, in the envelope. And she basically says, I know we shouldn't be together, but all I know is I've had this pervasive sadness that drains the color from my every moment ever since we broke up. We are apart and alone as we must be, but at least we are alone together. The tape is blank. I miss your voice. This is a very sad graphic novel, guys. This isn't the feel-good hit of the summer. So now we see Esther. She's with some new guy she obviously doesn't really care for that much. He also senses this. He's just like, he even has a thought balloon here. He's like, you'd like to get as far away from me as possible. That's what you want to do. So Esther's also, even though she has boyfriends, she feels pretty alone in this world. She's walking across this bridge, a very certain bridge, which we'll factor in later. See someone just staring into the water. And Esther's a nice person, so she's just like, are you okay? Because it turns out someone died falling off of this bridge. It turns out this is the same bridge where Ernie's brother did that stunt with the straitjacket and drowned to his death. She tells the story to this stranger. Of course, it just seems like it was a suicide. But then again, he was an escape artist. But it was like the hardest trick ever. So that's what really bears down on Ernie, is that he's pretty sure his brother just was killing himself, but making it look like an escape stunt. They have some kind of philosophical conversation. He's a good writer. It's kind of surprising such a young guy is already pretty much, he knows the score, like good characters, good dialogue. He's already a pretty damn good writer at this. I think he must have been in his early 20s, maybe even late teens, I don't know. So Esther continues on to her job. She works at a coffee house. Of course, it's just shitty work. She has to deal with guys hitting on her all the time. Esther's very attractive, and seems like a lot of guys are sleazy and jerky to her. Esther definitely seems just as miserable as Ernie in her life. The boyfriend calls up, kind of confronts her, is like, you don't give a shit about me. They kind of break up. Once again, it's really sharp drawn. So the next morning, Ernie wakes up to Al talking to himself. He's talking to Eddie, the magician who's long dead. God, that's a great panel there. It's weird how his drawing is so much better when he draws Al. The best panels of this by far are when he draws Al Floso. I think I just don't like the style he picked as a caricature for Ernie. I don't know, it just doesn't look that good. It's kind of dopey. But that's gold. That's great. So it's kind of sad. It's Al doesn't know what year it is. He thinks he's talking to Eddie. Now we see another dream sequence, and it's Esther's in bed with Ernie and his dead brother in the straitjacket, and they're having sex. And the brother starts talking about Verdi, something about the performance of one of his operas. And it turns out, because it's the clock radio waking her up, it melted into the dream, or burned into the dream. So she gets up for another shitty day at work. And that guy, Nathan, we saw earlier, the one talking to Ernie, he basically, he's like, oh yeah, can I get change for 20? And then while she's trying to figure that out, he's like, oh, actually, give me a 10 and 2 5s, blah, blah, blah. You know, that old scam. It's a common scam, the change scam, where they try to confuse you. And by the time they leave, you realize that they've gotten $40 out of your register when you thought you were just making change, you know? So he does that. She's totally flummoxed. She's just like, wait a second, what the hell just happened? But she's a smart girl, and she realizes. She's like, that son of a bitch. She leaps across the counter, runs down the street trying to find this Nathan guy, and she sees him getting into his car. She says, you ripped me off, motherfucker. And Nathan gets in the car. There's a little girl. He's like, I thought I told you to keep the engine running. And she says, it wastes gas. So this guy who's a con man, he's traveling around with his daughter. It's like Paper Moon, that movie, you know? So Esther even tries to chase the car, but she fails. Some chucklehead on the street says something like sexist to her, like, oh, check her out. And she's just had it. She slugs him right in the face in broad daylight. The daughter of Nathan looks back, and her name's Claire, by the way. She looks back and says, Dad, that woman just punched a guy in the middle of the street. So from their dialogue, we realize, yeah, this is the way they live. He's a con man and just traveling around with his cute little daughter. I just love this whole idea. Like, this would be a great comic. Just these two traveling around grifting people. So Ernie is borrowed a Walkman from his friend, from Mary, and he's recording little messages to Esther. As per her request. When he gets up to his apartment, he sees Mary with her girlfriend. They live together. And you could tell that the girlfriend does not like the fact that Mary's pals with this, drunken kind of loser. Especially because she's loaning him money every now and then. So he gets back to the apartment. Al's there. And they start to prepare lunch. They talk about some stuff. I can't get into everything. It'll take too long. So they're practicing magic tricks together, rehearsing. Al is a good influence on him. He stopped drinking ever since Al moved in, and Al also kind of like says, come on, we gotta rehearse. You're a magician. You gotta get back in the swing of things. But it's sad, though. He keeps calling him Eddie. He's still he's confused, He continues to record this tape for Esther. It's all very sad. This poor guy. And as he's recording up on the roof, he sees a van from the Long Acres retirement home that Al escaped from. He knows that Al's out for a little stroll, so he runs to the edge of the roof. And he tries to signal Al. And He basically makes a little slingshot out of a rubber band and knocks Al's hat off a block away. While the two guys from the retirement home are like knocking on the door, basically. Because they know Al's staying with Ernie. So, of course, Al doesn't get it. You know, like, Ernie's trying to gesticulate, like, the guys are here. Get out of here. And Al's just like, what are you doing up there? Knocking my hat off, you crazy fool. So the two guys see Al. The two guys from the retirement home. And right then, Nathan shows up with Claire. And they make a hasty getaway. Leaving the retirement guys. Chasing after him. I like this page here. Very interesting. Still snapshots. Very cinematic. So it looks like Esther is she's pulling her own Ernie. Looks like she's not showing up for work. Her boss is saying, hey, you're supposed to be here. What's going on? The guy she punched somehow got her number. And is saying, I'm going to press charges. You bitch. I'll get you. She's just giving up. We realize that Esther, it's not just breaking up with Ernie that, you know, she hasn't been happy. She's not a very happy person. In fact, we'll find out just how much. It's so funny how many 90s cartoonists who came up in the 90s but probably started reading comics in the 80s, you just always see hints of either Gilbert or Jaime Hernandez in all their comics. If you grab 50 alternative comics from that period, you're going to see a lot of panels that make you go, that's from Love and Rockets right there. I'm not saying he totally draws like that, but there's little glimmers here and there. So we realize that Esther, you know, she's like looking for pills to swallow. So it's not like she's just sad. She's fighting depression. She's been fighting depression for a long time. Even urges to kill herself. So now we see, once again, a nice scene cut. This nice panoramas of Seattle. And Nathan and crew, you know, Ernie and everyone else, they're under the pier here. And I guess this is where Nathan hangs out. Nathan and Claire. This is kind of their hangout spot. Because they live out of their car. So everyone gets acquainted. And, because Nathan just got sucked into this. He had no idea, like, he was going to be rescuing this old man. They have a little kind of ethical discussion about the difference between being a con man and a magician. And Nathan basically says, I have a favor for you, or at least this is how you can pay me back. I want you to teach Claire magic. You know, I could teach her skills, but they're not good skills to know. I don't want her growing up to be a con woman. But if she had some magic skills, maybe she could get little gigs. And he's like, I can't. I'm practically homeless. It's not that valuable a skill. But he's just like, yeah, well, it's better than what I do. And then he opens up his trunk. He says, oh, speaking of which, I forgot. I remembered that escape artist who died. And I found this in a junk shop. And somehow he happened upon, I don't know why he bought it, he happened upon a straitjacket with a metal ball connected to it. The same obvious thing that his brother was wearing. They fished it out of the river, I assume. Al and Claire start chatting. Claire says how much she loves living in the pier because it reminds her of living in a forest, you know, with all the pillars. And seeing the straitjacket in his trunk, Ernie is just like almost catatonic. He's just devastated. And then they all get in the car and take a nap, I guess. Oh, I'm sorry, they drive away. Wait. Oh no, they're all napping. And that's how we end the first part. Ernie finally passes off into slumber. A little respite from his miserable existence. So, Jar of Fools, part 2. Let's get this cover off. This fish wrapping. Another nice panoramic, fold-out, flapped cover. Yeah, he's got a great eye for detail when he draws like just all this kind of stuff, the moss on the pillars. And he does become a better artist when it comes to faces, of course. We'll probably see that in this issue. I mean, there's quite a time between the first and second part. I believe the first part he published himself before Black Eye Productions put it out. So that could have come out in the early 90s. So he's definitely progressed as a cartoonist in the meantime, especially considering he's drawing for the Seattle Stranger every week. You know, he wasn't just like kind of dicking around in his sketchbooks. He was a working artist. Once again, just, I know this is silly. It's just a very perfunctory drawing, but it's just really good. So now we see Ernie is teaching Claire little tricks. Claire is picking it up very well. She's seems to be a natural. And he's trying to explain to her how you have to, you know, put some flair into it. You can't just do a trick. The real part is the fact that the magic, it says that's the magic, not the trick itself, but what it makes possible in people. People know they're going to see a trick. They know they're going to see some kind of trick. But when they can't, when you distract them enough or do some sleight of hand that actually makes them think, holy shit, I have no idea how he does that. That's the magic. That maybe anything is possible. If the stupid card trick is possible that seems impossible, maybe I can turn my life around. Just as an example, you know. I thought that was an interesting philosophy. So now he is obsessed with finding who sold that straitjacket, who found it. So he goes to this kind of pawn shop. It almost looks like the nautical themed one. I love this scene. This is so nice. Well, it's not that nice. It's just cool. He has little shout outs. Here's Chris Ware with his Sparky the cat. We see a Jim Woodring crazy frog in the background. I don't know what this is supposed to be, but I have a feeling that's another cartoonist homage. I thought that was good. By the way, Chris Ware does do the blurb on the back cover, so maybe that was his little shout out to him. So he basically, the guy doesn't know, this pawn shop owner, but he does give him a little information, very vague information. All it is this card with no address, Morton E. Crane, and there's a weird symbol on it. He sees the bridge from which his brother jumped off of, and he says, let's go the other way. So he's still so traumatized, he can't even walk across this bridge. Now back at their camp, we see Nathan and Al are hanging out. Those guys don't get along very good. They're always yelling at each other. Al steals his pinstripe suit, or borrows it, you know. And this is kind of sad. Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe heartening. Maybe if I get Alzheimer's, it would be nice to see all my old friends. But he's chatting with his old magician friends as if they're right there, having a nice conversation with them. I do hope that happens. It seems a little too good to be true. So Nathan and Al get into a little scuffle. I like the chemistry between these two. They're just, it's almost like the Odd Couple movie or something. such a facile artist. I mean, I know, once again, just a simple thing of these cards tumbling through the air, but really sharp. So they talk for a while. And, I can't read all the dialogue in here, but most of the conversations are pretty interesting. And Jason Lutes has definitely got a flair for it. All very realistic. Basically, this Al is giving him shit for being a con man. And once again, we get into this whole, it's like, well, you're a magician, you trick people. He's like, yeah, but they know they're being tricked. It's a huge difference. So now we see a hand with a handful of hair tossing it over that very same bridge. And a hooded figure walks away. It's Esther. I mean, I figured that out when I was reading it. Yeah, I figured you probably know too. She's listening to the cassette tape that Ernie recorded for her. I find this really moving, this whole idea of these people that were in love, it didn't work out, and yet they still miss each other. I don't know if you've ever had that, but it is a bizarre feeling of like, I don't think I ever want to see that person again, and yet I miss them a lot. Maybe, at least the times you shared, it probably would be different if you did hang out again, but it's an odd feeling. It's a very sad feeling because you can't really do anything or you don't want to do anything. So finally, Ernie gets evicted. Ernie hasn't paid his rent in months. They throw his trunk out on the street. I guess it's got all his magic stuff. Marie wants to salvage it because she likes Ernie. Her girlfriend gets really mad at her. So this is causing a rift between this couple. We see that old boyfriend go into the coffee shop looking for Esther. He's sad too. Everyone's sad in this book. Such a sad book. Back at the camp, under the pier, everyone's hanging out having dinner. Esther's Claire is showing off her newfound prowess in magic, doing her tricks for everyone. She's so good that she's even surprising Al and Ernie. Like, she's doing things they didn't really teach her. And she's like figuring out shit. Once again, we have a dream sequence. This one's a very just bizarre one. Here's the word balloon backwards. It's almost like the last episode of Twin Peaks, season 1. Yeah, it's kind of a gruesome dream where he's chained to his brother by that ankle chain. And then in the dream, he sees Esther. Esther has all her hair chopped off. We saw her reaching for the scissor. I should have pointed that out when, instead of taking those pills, she reached for a scissor. And they embrace. I really love the body language in that. Just the kind of sad, pathetic neediness they have for each other. It really shows. I mean, that panel too. But then look, if you guys notice, the panel corners are now sharp. So he woke up to that. So once again, reality bleeds into the dream or vice versa. So Esther is really there. Esther has come. She has tracked him down. And they all go to sleep together in their little makeshift tent. And of course, Nathan wakes up the next morning and is like, who the hell is this? He goes off to get some supplies and scrounge up some food. He tries that whole heartbroken line again on the stranger. And they actually have this kind of like nice talk. And even though he asked the guy about being heartbroken, the guy admits to saying, yeah, it's that obvious. But then he goes on to talk about his wife, that where the mother of Claire is. And it just sounds very sad. He was a con man, and she wanted more out of life. So one day she just ditched them both. And this guy, this complete stranger, says, hey man, let me buy you a cup of coffee. So it's a very sad graphic novel, but there's also all these like moments where it's just like, at least, you know, people could be nice every now and then. So Claire and everyone's walking around Seattle. Claire is alone with Al, and she's like, so what happened to those two? And I like how Al says, they were the best and the worst thing that ever happened to each other. Because, man, I know that feeling. It's very paradoxical. So these guys have a heart-to-heart. They haven't seen each other in months, you know. So Esther is basically destitute now too. She's left her apartment. The police are looking for her because that guy really did press charges. Even though they both seem kind of glad that they found each other again, it's also just like she actually tells him, she says, it's hard for me to look at you. It's just like such a strange, complex relationship. And now we're back to Al and Claire, and they're talking more about, you know, she's trying to figure out like what's up with those two, and also it kind of turns to her mom. And Al's kind of asking her, it's like, so how'd that happen? Why'd she leave? He tries to cheer her up with a goofy trick with a pigeon under his hat. Yeah, all these panels of Al look so good to me, the way he draws them. So now we're back to, sorry, I meant to say, Ernie is still obsessed with finding who had the straitjacket. The card that pawn shop owner gave him leads to this place, kind of. He says, hey, that logo looks familiar. Maybe they know about this guy. Turns out they don't. They never heard of him, so he'll probably never find out. Back at the encampment, everyone's back home. And finally, they have a confrontation. Nathan and Esther. She's like, yeah, you're the guy who ripped off, who screwed me over at the coffee shop. So they have a whole conversation. And he starts just like giving her shit about her haircut and wearing men's overalls. She's like, is that all you have to say to me? Instead of just apologizing to me like you should. And I like this how Nathan is just so nonplussed. He's just like, I'm sorry, not nonplussed. He's so just like stuttering and just like, he says quietly, I never had to do that before. Apologize. I'm sorry. There's a lot of great little moments in this. It reminds me of like a really good indie movie or something. It just seems like a screenplay. It would be very easy to film. You wouldn't have to use really many special effects or anything. Of course, it doesn't need to be made into a movie. I really like the interactions of all these characters. This is a really sad scene where the daughter, I mean, we've seen it a million times before in movies, but she's just like asking her father, like, why did mom leave? Like, what did I do wrong? She breaks down. She says, why didn't she want me? Why didn't she take me with you? And he admits to her, he says, she did want you. I wouldn't let her take you. So that night, Esther wakes up. Ernie's gone. Ernie's not in their little tent. And she follows his tracks all the way down and to that bridge. That fateful bridge. And he's there in the straitjacket and the ball, and he's standing on the ledge. She says, please don't. And he's gonna do it, it looks like. But then it seems like seeing Esther, he's like, you know, calmed down a little, but he almost trips and falls into the river. Luckily, he kind of catches himself against this beam. And they have this, you know, really powerful conversation just about, like, he finally breaks down. It's just like, why did he do it? He knows he was trying to commit suicide, or at least he's pretty sure. And finally, Esther gets him to come down, but the ball falls. Luckily, she grabs him, so he doesn't go over the edge. And she says, where's the key? Of course, it's in his mouth. You know, he's an escape artist, and they all start laughing about it. So they have a tender moment, and I will leave the tender moment alone. Now we see another dream sequence. This time it's Claire walking through the woods. She sees the back of her mom. She runs after her. And she wakes up to Al's face. Al's like, come on, wake up, we gotta go. He's like, Ernie and Esther are missing. We gotta find them. So Nathan asks Al for a lockpick. He says, you got any spare lockpicks on you? And he says, I want to teach the girls some skills, you know. So I guess they're going to do one more scam. They go back to the Saturn Cafe where Esther used to work. Esther was saying how they have one of those like electronic cash registers. So Esther comes in, I'm sorry, I keep doing that. Claire comes in and says, can I use the bathroom, mister? All cute, like, it's like, of course you can. Gives her the key. The fuse box is in the bathroom. I guess Nathan cased the place before. She uses the lockpick to open the lock, and she turns off the front counter switch. She leaves the bathroom key in the bathroom and locks the door. Of course, the cash register stops working. The barista doesn't know why. He doesn't know what's going on. And Claire goes back out to the car where Nathan is waiting. Nathan waits 10 minutes, and he comes in wearing these coveralls. And he says, hey, I'm from the cash register company. The electronic signal let us know that it broke down. Even, I know you guys didn't call me, but it's got a sensor. And he bamboozles him and flim-flams him and just says, yeah, let me just take this out to the truck. I'll be right back in a second. He grabs the whole register. Meanwhile, the manager finally got into the bathroom. She got the key. And she realizes that the fuse has been turned off. When she comes out, she's like, where's the cash register? And she realizes they've been tricked. Meanwhile, we cut away to Al talking to his dead friends. It's kind of an interesting soliloquy how he's under all these power lines and all these kind of towers. And he's just talking about how it's like, this place is like a fucking nest. It's like we're in a spider's nest. They've chained up the sky, you know? It's like a big net with us on the inside, drawing tighter and tighter. So Al finds Esther and Ernie, and they're heading back to the camp, and they see a cop car coming. And I guess there's one day a month when the cops check under the pylons for vagrants. And I guess Nathan forgot because he was excited about his big scam. He forgot that today was the day. So they run back to the camp to try to warn him. I like how even these cops have a nice, interesting discussion about one of the cops has a crush on one of their fellow officers. Just like didn't have to be in there at all, but he just adds this little character piece in. So back at the camp, they're trying to figure out how to get into the money at the cash register. It's all locked. And they say, they tell him the cops are coming. And Nathan has this look on his face, just like he has to do something drastic. So he gives the car keys to Esther. He says, I'll tell you the address to Claire's mom. I need you to drive her down there. And of course, Claire says, Dad, what are you doing? And he says, it's okay, honey. It's time to see your mom again. Say goodbye. And they hug. And then we see the cops continuing their discussion, and all of a sudden the cash register almost hits him in the head. It hits one of the pylons. It bursts open. Another interesting shot of just money flying through the air. And it's Nathan causing a distraction so everyone else can get away. So he sacrifices himself. So Esther's going to drive down, I think, like Florida or something with Claire. And Eddie can't go. But she does say, we'll see each other again. And he says, I know we will. Al, even though he's a crusty old curmudgeon, totally comforts her. And with some kind words. Trust it, because she's bawling, And he gives her his top hat. Esther and Ernie kiss each other goodbye, and they drive off to find Claire's mother. And Al and Ernie walk off. I never mentioned this whole time, guys. Not that I think you probably figured it out, but Al was Ernie's mentor. That's where he learned magic, years before. So once again, it's just these two guys. Ernie's putting up with this kind of senile old coot. As Claire and Esther drive away, the cop car passes, and Nathan sees his daughter in the car, and he asks the cop, got anything for a guy who's heartbroken? And as we end, Esther's driving off with Claire. And that's the end of Jar of Fools. It's I hope it didn't bum me out too much. Some sad stuff. Kind of depressing. But also, a little hopeful. I mean, I guess that's life, right? It's mostly sad, but there's enough good stuff to keep us around for a while. Until there is not enough good stuff to keep us around for a while, and then whatever. So, Jar of Fools Part 1 and Part 2 by Jason Lutes. A pretty impressive first graphic novel, I would say. It's definitely his writing shows a maturity that I think most youngsters of his age don't really have when they, write comics. But hope you enjoyed looking at it with me, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.